SeizeYourBusiness.com podcast with Tony Rourke and Kevin O'Flaherty.
SeizeYourBusiness.com, making you money.
Share it on Facebook, share it on LinkedIn,
Twitter, our blogs, YouTube videos, listen to our podcast, getting so hot that it's burning up the stereo.
Welcome to the SeizeYourBusiness.com podcast, coming to you from our speakeasy in lovely downtown Downers Grove, Illinois. Our guest today is Paula Gleason from Neighbors of Lisle. Our hosts are Kevin O'Flaherty from O'Flaherty Law and myself, Tony Rourke from ADR Business Resource Group. If you find the podcast helpful, or if you would just want to help us out, we would appreciate it if you would review us on iTunes or share our podcast on social media. So without further ado, I'm hand it over to Kevin.
All right, Paula, thanks for being here with us today.
Glad to be here, Kevin. Thank you for inviting me.
So our topic is going to be effective magazine marketing. But why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what you do and your business experience.
Okay, well, my business experience is many fields of expertise. I never expected to be doing a magazine at this stage of my life. But I got into this about 3 years ago, founding this magazine because Lisle had no newspaper. And I found it very disconcerting that most of my friends and affiliates knew nothing about what was going on. So the Neighbors of Lisle was created. I got buy-in from all of the taxing bodies in the city, in our village. It's not really a city. And was able to convince them that they would be able to advertise in a magazine and save money not having to print and publish their own newsletter. And that would be the Chamber of Commerce, the Village of Lisle, the Park District, the library, and the school district. So that was the catalyst that gave me an impetus to really move forward on this. And it was a lot of hitting the streets and beating the bricks and going out there and convincing people that this was going to be a viable publication. And 3 years later, everyone loves it.
That's excellent. Do you, wow, that's kind of cool. You just woke up one morning and decided you want to do a magazine?
Not exactly. I knew the magazine was in existence in other towns.
Okay.
So I had heard there is a publisher that does 7 magazines. Mm-hmm. And there are 4 in Kane County. Now we have 3 in DuPage.
Okay.
And I've always had a penchant for writing and editing and proofing.
Okay.
So it kind of all fell into line, something I wanted to do.
Nice. I love it.
What were the first couple months of doing that like? What were some of the challenges that you faced getting your feet wet in the magazine industry?
I think the biggest challenge is you don't know all the answers. I'd never done that type of sales before. I'd done inside sales. I'd done business development. But now when you're out in the street and you're trying to sell something that you don't even have a sample to show anyone mm-hmm. and convince them to put their money into it, it's a little bit of a challenge.
So you're doing sales for the magazine, just like any other sales position. You're trying to network and meet people. And how did some of your experiences from previous sales jobs you had carry over to the magazine?
I would say, for one thing, in new business development, you end up doing a lot of cold calling, mm-hmm. and you get used to rejection, mm-hmm. and you just take it in stride. It's not you personally. It's just something that people don't want to accept. And the same thing with the advertising for the magazine. I went out full force expecting everyone to say yes, and of course everyone didn't. But I just kept forging ahead, and it's amazing. If you have the passion, somehow other people seem to pick up on it.
How many pages was your magazine when you first started?
32 pages.
And how many are there now?
It varies. It varies between 28 and 32, okay. And that depends on the amount of editorial content I have, the news items, the photographs, and of course the number of ads.
When you decided that you were going to start this, and once you had the foundation put together, mm-hmm. that all you had to do was write and go talk to people, how long did it take you? What kind of gap was there between the dream and reality? Maybe I'll ask it that way.
I guess I would say the end of the first year, full year.
Okay.
Because, of course, I had projections of what I thought the magazine was going to do. And the first couple of months, I met all those projections with no problem. But after you get underway, a lot of the ads were just renewals, and I wasn't getting as much new business as I had thought. So at the end of the year, Although the numbers were good and we made money, it wasn't as high as I had projected.
Okay.
It's reality.
Hey.
That's when it sets in.
Sure. Well,
When that happened, did you end up adjusting your projections, or did you make some changes in the way you were doing your marketing for it?
I was just out beating on more doors, looking for more ads.
Just working harder.
Right.
I guess one thing that I'm curious to learn is how does one. There's a lot of different options for where to spend your marketing dollars,
Mm-hmm.
and even within the magazine industry, there's a bunch of different options there too. Do you have any advice for business owners on how to make decisions on effective use of their marketing dollars?
Sure. I think that people nowadays seem to think that print advertising is going away and everything is going to be media, social media, and that really isn't happening. In fact, I read an article not too long ago that Google, who of course promotes everything on the internet, was doing about a third of their pursuit in actual print advertising. So that
Interesting.
Google
yes,
itself is advertising.
absolutely they were not through my magazine, but through print.
That's funny.
And one of the things I've been faced with, certain advertisers will tell me, well, I'm going to do door hangers. That's just much more effective. And I always counter that, well, a door hanger goes on the door. They see it one time. If they need that product right then, they'll buy it. Otherwise, that usually goes in the garbage. But the magazine, it comes out every 2 months. And because it has a calendar in there of 2 months of activities, people tend to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
So your ad is being viewed daily almost for 2 months.
Now, can you tell me the difference between advertising in a hyper local magazine like yours versus a magazine with a larger geographical scope? What are the advantages and disadvantages?
Again, it would depend on what market you're pursuing to advertise. Now, where I am, there are more mom and pop businesses than large businesses. We only have a few big industries in the Lisle area. I've had one or two of them advertise with me, which I think is very generous. They're doing it out of the goodwill of their heart. They're certainly not going to get any business from a resident. And I would say for larger companies, the small magazine isn't their forte.
Mm-hmm.
We're reaching every resident in Lisle. A large company would want to meet probably people throughout the state, maybe throughout the United States.
Yeah.
And kind of a similar question, when you're presented with the option of having that little ad in the corner for a very cheap price versus the, full page ad, what have you seen as the difference in actual value that business owners get from getting the, larger ads versus the smaller ads?
I think some of the people that do a full page ad aren't doing it every issue. They're doing it for emphasis. People are really, really going to see that. And it's usually a company that's already well known. Okay. The other companies that are doing the smaller ads, they put them in consistently. And that to me is marketing. You have to have your name out there consistently if you want people to remember you. You put it in one time and people will see it, maybe say it's for real estate. And you don't need to buy or sell this month. You saw it, you put it aside, and maybe 6 months later, you're like, who was that guy? I want to put my house up for sale. And they're not going to remember. But if it's in there every issue, all they have to do is pick up the magazine and they'll find you.
So a lot of the goals that you've got with print marketing isn't necessarily, like you're not going to expect to get a call directly from that ad. You're just getting enough touches. Do they say it's like 7 times someone has to see your name?
Right.
Makes an imprint in the brain.
And there are people that want to take it out. They'll say, I just want to take it out one time to see how it goes. And I tell them right up front, that's a mistake. You're not going to have, I shouldn't say you're not going to have, you probably won't have a lot of phone calls from one ad. It's got to be something that someone needs at a certain time, and then they'll call you.
And you can't predict that.
No.
I work in the area of online marketing, and I'm a technologist, and what I try to tell people is the same type of thing. What you're going for is top of mind awareness. That's it. And one time, there's no top, there's no mind, there's no awareness.
Right.
If you're only doing one ad, every 2 months?
Every 2 months, yeah.
Are these get sent to people's homes?
Through the U.S. mail. Yes, they do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Nothing is bulk dropped or anything like that. They all go to each individual address, even in apartments and condos.
Interesting.
Are there particular types of businesses that you found especially could use print marketing effectively versus other types of businesses?
The people that seem to like it the most are real estate, insurance, financial organizations, banks, chiropractors. I would like to get some more attorneys interested.
Consider me interested.
That was good. I don't know if y'all heard that, but that was good.
Come on my podcast, you'll be top of mind. I'll tell you that.
That was the easiest cold call ever.
Was that subtle?
That was good.
So speaking of attorneys being interested, one of the hesitations I've always had to print marketing is that I find that I'm afraid that it's going to be hard to track where my business comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's strategies that you can use to actually track that. Do you have any suggestions for people who want to use print marketing but want to have trackable print marketing?
I would say the obvious thing is when someone comes in, how did you hear about me?
Mm-hmm.
Or more directly, did you happen to see my ad in Neighbors of Lisle magazine?
And people, have you found that people are actually pretty responsive? They'll actually say, not just I've heard about you around town, but I saw your ad in Neighbors of Lisle.
Well, the thing is, they may not volunteer that when they come in. They may have seen it. That may be why they're there. They're just not going to tell you that unless you specifically ask them. Other organizations like carpet cleaning and things like that, they'll put in a discount. The car wash, they put in little coupons. Well, they know how many come back.
Sure. Are there other little tricks like I've heard on the radio, like mention this, hashtag such and such.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're talking about with the discount?
Right.
So
right.
if they mention that, they get a discount.
They get a discount.
Then you know where your marketing dollars.
Yes.
Coming from.
I certainly encourage that more than cutting out the coupon because I really don't want people to cut up the magazine if they don't have to.
Sure. Do you think that's a more effective strategy than setting up like a separate call-in line for each different, ad you're going to place?
Oh, yeah.
Because I guess what you're saying is you've got to place a bunch of these ads in a lot of different places to be effective, and you can't set up 50 phone lines, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of stuff in your life. I know when we sat down and had coffee, I was kind of blown away by all the stuff you've been involved in. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what you were doing before the magazine?
Yes, I have been in several businesses. I've been in finance, and I've been in I was in banking, new business development for several companies. I've been a real estate agent. I've been a real estate broker. I've been a stockbroker with Payne Weber way back when.
Wow.
I was a paralegal with VMS Realty, which was limited partnerships way back when. Human resources with McDonald's Corporation.
You've done a lot of stuff.
Property manager. I've been around a while.
All right, you said that. I did.
So one of my favorite questions to ask people, and I ask this to almost every guest, or what are some of the lessons that you've learned in the course of your experience that maybe you'd tell your younger self when you're just entering the business world, or that you could pass on to the business owners who might be listening?
Well, there's a couple things. One is don't procrastinate. If you have something to do, do it now. If you don't have time for it now, you're not going to have time for it later. So that's really an important thing, not to put things off. Treat other people like you want to be treated. Think of yourself in the other person's chair when you're presenting something to them, how you would accept it and how you would like people to react. When I'm on the phone, I keep a mirror right on my desk so that I see myself and I'm smiling all the time.
That's a cool trick. I've never heard that one before.
And I think it helps.
Yeah, you want to you can tell when someone's not smiling on the other end.
Absolutely.
Sure,
yeah.
You don't want to be dealing with those types of people. So.
Mm-hmm. And it's something anyone can do. You can have just a small little something on your desk that, can either be a regular mirror or a reflection, but you're seeing yourself. And if you smile while you're talking, it comes across.
I can even hear it just now.
Like it just did. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Procrastination is a tough thing because one of our previous guests, I forget who it was that mentioned this, was talking about opportunity cost, because that was Doreen Petty was saying that when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to all the others. So a lot of times for business owners, it's not necessarily procrastination. It's just something doesn't, make it up to their priority list, or they put off the stuff that they don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, Eat That Frog, they say you got to do the stuff you really don't want to do first, and make that your modus operandi is to tackle the ugly tasks first, get it out of the way, and then everything after that is progressively easier. Did you have any tricks that you use to avoid procrastination?
I can't say that I have tricks. I just know that if I don't meet my deadline, I'm my own worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do have deadlines, I push them ahead for myself. If I have to have something done by the 1st of the month, I put it on my calendar the 24th of the month before. And I do that with just about everything I do.
Does that deadline stay real for you if you move it a week ahead, or do you end up pushing that early deadline back?
It stays as close to that as possible, unless something, and that's the reason I do it. There are times when you have an emergency or something happens and you have to be away from your task at hand.
Sure.
Or you've accepted a special project all of a sudden. It's going to take 24 or 48 hours that you hadn't allotted for. But if you kind of do that as a rule, you stick by it.
You've been pretty active, and I'm sorry I cut you off.
That's okay.
Let you ask the next one, Tony. You've been pretty active in the Lisle Chamber, I know. Can you talk about another recurring theme is how to effectively use chambers of commerce as a tool for your business, and also kind of the benefits that you've gotten personally from being in the chamber?
I've been with the chamber, I'd say about 14 years, and every moment of it has been productive. I've been very active in all of their committees, and through that, you meet a lot of people that you network with. And of course, when I started the magazine, it was like I knew so many people. It was easy to call on for my business. But it's also good for referrals. When someone comes to me and said, do you know anybody in such and such industry? I can almost always find someone in that industry.
I found that when I was starting the podcast, having done a lot of networking for the law firm, when we think we want to do an episode every week, man, there's 52 really good guests we got to book. Well, we've got people lined up around the door to do it because we had built up that network of people. It's really easy. I haven't moved much past, my personal friends yet even. So having that network helps you with whatever pursuit you want to do. Like,
does that mean I'm his personal friend?
I think you can read into that.
No, the chamber is very advantageous. It's good for business, but it's also a good social network. And we have so many activities where everyone comes out and they don't talk business for a while. They just socialize. Then we have, of course, our seminars and info sessions. And I think everyone takes advantage of both ends of what's offered through the chamber.
Excellent.
And of course, I'm with, I've been on their board. I was chairman of the board. I felt that I contributed that, and that was really important to me, not just to have that name, just changing some of the business principles and some of the things that we were doing and getting new members into the chamber. I've been on the West Suburban Community Pantry Board for about 6 years, and that is just so rewarding. But again, I'm meeting people from all walks of life, and it's expanded my horizons a lot.
How did you start getting on those boards? Did you ask to be on them or apply, or did someone reach out to you and say, we have a position, we'd like you to fill it?
Yeah, I've pretty much been asked for everything.
Does that just come from being well networked and
I think so. Well, and being a volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all this starts. I'm just always willing to help people, and I started working with the village. I don't know how many years ago. Let's see. They needed help with the French market. And the first year that they had it, they needed someone to help. I said, yeah, I'll help. And the following year, the people from France who run the market came to me and said, gee, you're doing so good. Can you work for us and run the markets? I get paid? Sure.
That's called putting yourself in a good opportunity.
Right.
And position for a good opportunity.
Yes. So I've been with them this whole time. We're still running the French markets in Lisle.
Where is that?
It up until now, it's been at the Metro train station.
Okay.
This year we're relocating over to the beautiful Prairie Walk Pond, which faces Route 53.
Oh, okay. With the fountain.
The fountain.
big fountain.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we'll be there 6 months out of the year, start May 2nd.
How do you, when you're choosing how to allocate your time, volunteering is important for a lot of reasons. As a lawyer, a lot of times if you want to build your practice, you do some pro bono work to get your name out there and meet other potential clients. But how do you balance the time you're spending as a volunteer versus the time you're spending actually, making money in your business? Because that's a struggle I've had personally.
It is a struggle. Again, it's your priorities. It's where you see the need at the moment.
Mhm.
Your work has to come first because that's where your money comes from, and you have to have food on the table. But all of that excess time, I allocate. I have folders and files and little sticky notes that I remind myself I want to do this, I want to do that, and you fit it in when you can.
Have you ever gotten to the point where you're like, I'm fully booked. There's nothing more I can take on right now?
I try to, but somehow I always say yes.
Well, that's a good way to be successful in any area of your life, is to say yes to things and not turn down opportunities, because you never know what's going to come from any given opportunity, even if it doesn't look great.
I've been doing a lot of fundraising lately. And I keep thinking maybe this should have been my career because I like doing it.
What have you been fundraising for?
Two things. One was for the chamber. We have an annual dinner dance, which is Dancing with the Chamber Stars.
Okay.
So I've been doing that now for about 9 years, and every year it just gets larger, and we gain a little bit more money, and a lot of that money goes to our scholarships. So that's rewarding, and it's a social event, a lot of fun. And for the West Suburban Community Pantry, I actually was on the fundraising committee, and they only had 2 fundraisers. And that was a spring spectacular and a golf outing. And I said, well, you need something else.
Mm-hmm.
And how about everybody now is interested in food? Let's do something with food. And we're a pantry. Doesn't that make sense? So I came up with the Chef's Culinary Challenge.
Okay.
And so now I'm in my 3rd year of bringing in chefs from various restaurants, and they compete against each other. And the people have gourmet food, and they love it, and they vote for the best chef. And we made so much money last year. I was just so gratified.
So is fundraising basically about throwing a good party that people want to come to and charging for attendance and raffling things off, or is it more cold calling and getting donations from people?
It's really fundraising. It basically is finding sponsorships.
Okay.
That's where the major dollars come from. People that have deep pockets and that are willing to give to a good cause. Then everything else, of course, it's like a big party. It's fun. You want to make it worth the while of the people that are spending their money to come.
Mm-hmm. We're going to be throwing a launch party for the podcast, and we're trying to make it a really attractive event. We want to pack the room and get live music and do a lot of fun stuff. Do you have any suggestions for us on how to throw an attractive event and throw a good party that people are going to want to come to and want to be a part of, and building interest in that?
Sure. You start out with save the date. You have to put that out right away, let people know when you're going to have it and how important it's going to be, what fun it's going to be, and then you line up whatever is your headliner, whether it be a speaker, an entertainer, a dancer, a music, band, whatever it is. Good food.
Sure.
Good drinks.
Not a problem.
Tony just pointed to our bar in our speaking. So just throw a good party, it sounds like, and let people know about it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, one last question for you, Tony. Are you itching?
I got one.
Yeah, go for it.
I find your careers fascinating, and in the context of what this is about is to help the business owner.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people out there are going to be doing cold calling, have to do that business development. You have any tips on the cold calling part itself?
The cold calling itself. One thing is, do not be afraid of cold calling. I think people just hear that word and they tell me, I'm afraid. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to be afraid because the people on the other end don't know you as a person. What you're trying to do is usually get through a layer of people to get to the person you want.
Mhm.
So you originally just want to introduce yourself, repeat that person's name. You know, you want to get on a friendly basis with them. And I haven't been to your office lately. You can maybe tell just a little story
Okay.
that has management changed at all? And who do you think would be the best person for me to talk to? I mean, you have to try and get your way in. That's the major thing, getting in. This other thing with that little mirror, I learned that years ago in a sales training class, that if you come across as happy and pleasant, those people are going to be more receptive.
Sure.
And you always have to let them know that if you can't speak to that person right now, you'd like to get a message through, and you'd like to call back and leave a time. Don't just say, I'll call back. I'll be back. I'll call back in 2 days, or I'll call back in 1 week, whatever your schedule permits.
As a business owner who gets cold called a lot by people, the most effective way to sneak into my schedule with me unawares is to ask my staff, hey, can I schedule a time to talk to Kevin? Because then they have to give a direct no. You know, they have to, if someone actually asks, can I put something on Kevin's calendar as far out as you want to talk, then it'll usually get on my calendar.
Yeah.
And I do some cold call dodging, and you know.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What's your favorite business book, Paul?
Walk the Talk was something that I read a long time ago, and that's really what it's all about. You're telling people what you're offering. You're telling people your success story. You're telling people that you have a trustworthy background. I mean, all these things that you're saying, make sure that that's true.
Yeah, well, that's important because people will, you know, it doesn't do any good to get people in the door if they leave and tell other friends that you're terrible.
Yeah, and it wasn't what it was sounded like it was going to be.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
If someone wants to reach you or post an ad in Neighbors Magazine, how can they do that?
Absolutely. My email is Paula_Gleason, GLEASON @yahoo.com. My cell number is 630-222-3403. And I am available at anyone's convenience to meet them somewhere, you know.
All right.
Entering.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, that was excellent.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.